This is the Devil's Guide to D&D. Devil's Delegate here, and okay, we've got 4 new subclasses and 5 revised ones in the new Tal'Dorei Campaign Setting Reborn, and I want to cover them all. Okay, you might be asking, what is the Tal'Dorei Campaign Setting Reborn? Well, it's the updated campaign book from Matt Mercer and Company, originating in his extremely popular Critical Role streaming program. After Season 1, he released the Tal'Dorei Campaign Setting, now out of print. So this is a new version with 100 extra pages and all kinds of new things. Alright, why care more about this than any other homebrew? Well, he released the first setting book after his Season 1, and after Season 2, another campaign book was released, called The Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, and that one was put out by Wizards of the Coast. And Wizards of the Coast is about to release Call of the Netherdeep, another Matt Mercer Critical Role book. So Matt Mercer and Critical Role are rolled pretty tightly in with D&D 5e and WotC. Anything in this book can slide right into your campaigns. For today, I'm looking at the Moon Domain Cleric, which has been the most talked about of the new subclasses. Is it any good, and do you want to add it to your campaign? Well, let's take a look. Now, this domain is part of the Tal'Dorei setting, where the world has 2 moons, one large and related to lycanthropy, and one small and mysterious. So dual items are a theme of the subclass. Again, I don't care much about other people's lore, I write my own. And I'm more concerned about the mechanics. So what about the mechanics of this domain? Well, it will change how you play your cleric, giving you reason not to go the normal route of bless until spirit guardians, which you take all the way. Instead, the Moon Cleric is more of a controller, and that starts right off with the domain spells, which are, as I judge them, the best domain spells of any cleric domain, just barely beating out Twilight. As I was saying, these lean toward the controller side of things, and the standout is Hypnotic Pattern. For my money, the best 3rd level spell in the game, and the go-to for wizards and bards and any controller. But with that, we also start off with Fairy Fire, a great 1st level control spell. Additionally, we have Invisibility and Greater Invisibility, powerful spells not available to you before. The 3 illusion spells, Silent Image, Major Image, and Hallucinatory Terrain, allow for all sorts of shenanigans out of combat, although Hallucinatory Terrain is pretty situational. But they can even be useful in combat. And even if your DM doesn't play nice with illusions, you can still find a lot of uses for Silent Image, in combat and out. Moonbeam is a fair spell, but the way the rest of the subclass works out, you'll even find use for it. Pass Wall is a situational but very useful spell, so the only one that's really sitting on the sidelines here is Dream, and I like Dream. Certainly fits our flavor, it's good for communication, and if you can ever use it for attack, you'll love it. Also, at 1st level, we get Clarity of Katha. As a reaction, you can grant a creature, including yourself, advantage on a save, and you can do this proficiency bonus per long rest. This is just great. Although we're moving away from the controller side and back to being a buffer, but this is really good buffer stuff. Advantage on a save can save a character's life, and it certainly is going to make things a lot easier. Plus, I like how this one works because you're using a reaction, so you're not having to use your bonus action or an action to do this. And because you are using a reaction, it's active. You're doing things. It's not something you just set up. You're playing this as it occurs. It's certainly not overpowered, as the bard can do better to help with saves, but it's very good. And honestly, I'd take a dip into this domain just for that. At 2nd level, we get our Channel Divinity, which is a twofer. We get to give one creature one of 2 blessings. The first, Blessing of the Watchful Moon, lasts for 1 hour, and it increases the creature's speed by 10 feet, and gives it advantage on perception and survival checks involving smell or tracking. Okay, it's flavorful, wolves and werewolves and all. It's not terribly good even when the situation pops up, and that situation isn't gonna pop up much in most campaigns. Still, I don't mind this at all because it's an extra Channel Divinity. Think of it as a ribbon one. I'll be generous and just call it really, really situational. The second is Blessing of the Blood-Drenched Moon, and that lasts for 10 minutes, and the blessed creature has advantage on attack rolls against any target if there's one of his allies within 5 feet of that target. Within D&D, that's normally called pack tactics, and it's really good. This is where you're going to be spending your Channel Divinities, at least from levels 2 through 6. With a 10-minute duration, that's usually only going to mean one battle, but it could mean more, and granting one of your allies advantage for the entire battle can really really turn things around. Your rogue's gonna love you for it. You just need to have 2 melee characters in your party. And if you only have one, well, what about you? Sure, you shouldn't be tossing a sword around, but a cleric is a decent frontliner, and if you've got this, you should plan for it. That way you can make sure that your more strikerish frontliner gets that advantage. The 6th level feature is the one that's really gotten all the talk. After all, it allows you to concentrate on 2 different spells at the same time. And yeah, when I first looked at it, I thought too, this is too strong. But it really isn't. The balance here is really nice. Firstly, it's using up your channel divinity, and then it's nerfing your concentration. But more than that, this isn't letting you concentrate on any 2 spells. You're not pulling up your spirit guardians and then doing something else. This only pertains to your Moon Domain spells. Remember, there's only 10 of them, and Dream Passwall and Hallucinatory Terrain aren't concentration spells anyway, so we're only talking about 7 spells. But is this good then? Yes, it is. After all, is a first level Fairy Fire better for you to be casting than a first level Bless? Well, it is if you're casting it on one side of the battlefield while you're casting a hypnotic pattern over the other one. Or if you want to hold up that hypnotic pattern and not be seen, cast invisibility on yourself at the same time. Or twin greater invisibility on your 2 strikers. Moving around a major image while you're holding up one of these other spells makes that much better and open to all sorts of shenanigans, even useful out of combat. And then there's a spell like Moonbeam, which, as I said, was okay. Well, if it's not the only thing using up your concentration, it becomes a much better spell. Not only is this reasonably powerful, but I like the flavor of it. It's giving you reason to stick with these spells, and luckily, they're good ones. You're going to be doing something different than the average cleric. And if you're dual casting hypnotic patterns, that's going to make that spell still be powerful long after it normally starts to fade. At 8th level, you get Empowered Cantrips, which lets you add your Wisdom modifier to damage done through your cantrips, which is nice. Pretty standard there. Empowered instead of Potent Cantrips. I wonder if there's a copyright reason involved there. And finally, at 17th level, it's Eclipse of Ill Omen. This lets you create a large area of dim light, within which creatures are at a disadvantage on their saving throws. Oh, we're back to control again. That's going to make it a lot easier to damage a whole lot of creatures. And you can make it not affect your allies. Additionally, when you hit a creature with radiant damage, you can, for 1 creature a turn, curse that creature so that its speed is halved and it can't regain hit points. That's a little more control. There's certainly better 17th level features in other cleric subclasses, but this is decent. What makes it a little bit more than decent is that while this requires concentration, it counts as one of your Moon Domain spells, so that you can do this and do one of your other concentration spells. Moonbeam, which does radiant damage, is looking a lot better now. Still, I can't get too excited about Eclipse of Ill Omen. It's nice to have, but is it actually better than just upcasting Spirit Guardians on yourself and running around? Well, it gives you another option. Overall, I find this subclass to be quite strong, certainly not too strong, but on the higher end of cleric subclasses. The Moon Domain Cleric is going to run into the same issue as most clerics, which is as they get higher in level, their spell list begins to fade compared to other full casters. They have less to do in combat. Now, while this is always a bit of an issue for a cleric, for this cleric, it's a bit more awkward. See, this domain made you a controller. You really don't want to be playing this in a party that already has a wizard controller or a bard controller, because one or the other of you are going to be redundant. You're not going to be able to do your cool things. To make the most of this, you want to be the controller of the party. And certainly at 6th and 7th level, you're earning that position. Thing is, while you're really good at that, even twinned hypnotic patterns start to lose their dazzle as you get higher up in level. And you have very little in the way of 6th, 7th, and 8th level control spells. After all, figure you don't have those wall spells, or maze, or force cage. Once you get that high, you're back to using Spirit Guardians upcast, and the party's without a controller. It's kind of hard at that point to ask the wizard to come back in and take over. Still, that's not that far from problems that all clerics run into, and if your game is only going to 12th or 13th level, that's not really an issue. So yeah, this is a good subclass, and one that I think that will be more fun to play than most. There's more things for you to do, more spells for you to cast. Yeah, I think Matt Mercer and company did okay. That's it for now. Time to sip your brandy and get ready for bed. Or maybe just sip even more brandy.